Hi everyone, Bandanner here and welcome to this week's WARNO devblog, which in all honesty feels a bit arbitrary at this point because over on the main channel you will see I've put up a video that actually looks at the new two divisions, the 101st and the 56th, that would be coming with the Nemesis DLC. However, for the sake of completion, this is this week's devblog, which focuses on the preview of the US 101st Airborne Division. They go over a quick reminder about what Nemesis is again, where you will be voting for the next one, etc, etc, but we discussed that last week, so I won't go over it again. So we got a little bit of history again for the 101st Airborne Division. Much like its sister formation, the 82nd Airborne, the US 101st had a distinguished World War II career. Activated during this conflict as a paratrooper formation, it famously saw action during D-Day, Market Garden, and the Battle of the Bulge. Commander Richard Dick Winters of Band of Brothers fame fought in the division during the war. After World War II, the 101st Airborne would be deployed to the Vietnam War, where it participated in the Battle of Hamburger Hill in 1969. Around the time, the formation was reorganized following the structure and equipment of an air mobile division. This meant a goodbye to aircraft and parachute training and closer integration with helicopters. However, one of its brigades kept its parachute jumping training, while the other two were reformed as air assault formations. Interestingly enough, much of the late Cold War saw limited deployment of the Screaming Eagles, even as part of the US Army's Quick Reaction Force, the 18th Airborne Corps, which led to some snide remarks from the more battle-experienced 82nd Airborne, which apparently they're going to explain shortly. So the 101st Airborne was reorganized as a light infantry division, much like its counterparts, the 9th Motorized, 10th Mountain, and already present 82nd Airborne Division. The infantry battalions were formed around the newly introduced Humvee, but unlike other divisions, the 101st Airborne had more air mobile and air support power. This did mean that there was no armoured battalion or even armoured vehicles associated with the division. Not having a single armoured vehicle is a bit too much, so we returned part of the armoured detachments of the 194th Armoured Brigade, which were previously seconded to the 82nd Airborne Division in WARNO's early access, but which were removed before the game's official launch. Another detachment to the 101st Airborne will be the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the US Special Forces Helicopter Wing. By the end of the Cold War, the Chicken Men, a nickname given to the 101st Airborne troops while serving in Vietnam, as their Screaming Eagle patch was mistaken for a chicken, were mocked by their 82nd Airborne paratroop counterparts for not being true airborne anymore. Only a minority of the division's soldiers had parachute training, while the division as a whole couldn't count on the same amount of combat experience as its sister division, having not taken part in the Grenada and Panama operations. Still, in terms of training and preparedness, the division was still well above the regular divisions in the US Army. This is why additional veterancy, experience, and shock trait, like other airborne divisions, have been kept for the 101st Airborne Troopers. So what can you expect from the American paratroopers in the Nemesis Air Assault DLC? Note that some of the following is still work in progress. They have bolded or put in italics the new units, but I'll explain them as we go through. But again, you can see them in detail over on the main Bandanner channel right now as I go through every single unit that is in these two new divisions. But anyhow, in logistics, it's an average category for this division, bringing it closer to a typical infantry battle group with a fair number of slots but only light unit options. No forward operating base is available, in other words, just light ground supply vehicles, the new M274 Supply Mule and the M561 Supply Goat, both new vehicles. They'll also have access to the UH-60A supply and the Chinook supply as logistical foundation. Command vehicles include the Humvee, the OH-56C chopper, and the UH-60A helicopter. Infantry, as expected, is an excellent category. Much like their Soviet counterpart, the 101st Airborne Aero Infantry are like the 82nd Airborne squads but lack the forward deployment ability. Rifle squads will see the deployment of the new Aero Rifles, which is a new unit created to fit the 82nd Airborne and 101st Airborne's doctrine. Existing units with other divisions will be renamed Air Cav Troopers. Other new unit variants include the self-explanatory Aero Rifles Dragon and the Aero Rifles AT-4. This last unit, again, like its Soviet counterpart, is a half platoon. almost 50% bigger compared to the regular squads with more men and one extra machine gun and more anti-tank ammo. This unit can only deploy with a Chinook transport. Furthermore, there is also the aero rifle leader, featured in the 82nd Airborne already and have been reworked with airborne models and a shock tray. In real life, the 101st Airborne only had enough airlifting assets to make one of its 3 brigades fully air mobile. The rest had to do with Humvee transports. As such, this is the option featured for the new Aero Fire Team Leader, Aero Fire Team 84 and Aero Fire Team Dragon. 2 other new units are the Aero Engineers Leader, a 12-man squad fielding the M202 Flash, and the Aero Engineers with explosive satchels. The division will also be able to call on the usual array of MP squads, TOW2, M60 and M2HB weapons teams. The division's transports include the Humvee, Blackhawk and Chinook helicopters, plus one newcomer, the quirky Gamma Goat, replacing the M35 trucks, though the latter will still be available for heavier towed artillery. A new unit is the old, but first ever in WARNO, M274 Mule M40A1, deployable as a mobile fire support recoilless rifle. Think of it as a Jeep with a recoilless rifle on it. One special feature of the division will include several special forces, the Green Berets leader and the new Green Berets ODA squads. Green Berets companies aren't structured into typical platoons and squads, but into Intermediary Operational Detachment Alpha, or the ODA. If anyone has ever wondered where the A came from, in the A-Team, this is it. They were all former ODA members from the Vietnam War. Well, there you go, something to learn about the A-Team. These latter squads are the 14-man strong Special Forces veterans being brought to the battlefield in a new modified MH-47D Chinook, equipped with a side door Gatling gun plus extra ECM. And I realise as I say that, I think I forgot to mention that in my other video, but there you go. Another unique feature is that this squad will have a 4th weapon slot. This I did mention. The M16A2, the M249 SAW, the M21 sniper rifle and the AT4. This was made possible thanks to a UI rework. Note that this feature will not be unique for long. We will be making a pass through all the nations of WARNO and add a 4th weapon slot where fitting. This update will be detailed in a future dev blog. Basically, I'm waiting for the additional weapons for the SAS. Okay, over in artillery, it's a very average area with primarily light artillery options, all being towed pieces. There's the new Aero M252 82mm mortar and the M30 107mm mortars. Same as before, they've just got Aero in front of them. Then you've got the M102 105mm and the M198 155mm howitzers. While all artillery units are towed and non-self-propelled, all except the M198 can be airlifted onto the battlefield, so there is a helicopter option. In the tank tab, it is somewhat lacking with a few slots and all being expensive. Not many options either. As we mentioned above, the 101st Airborne didn't actually have any armor at all in reality. It counts on large numbers of the M1025 Humvee tow instead. Though with the addition of the 194th Armoured Brigade, a few cards of vanilla and command variants of the M1IP are made available, and a new unit, another member of the mechanical mule family of vehicles, is the cheap M274 Mule I-tow carrier. Recon is a pretty decent category for the division, though only foot and helicopter units are available. The recon vehicles that are present act as transports. New Aero Scouts and Aero Scouts GSR, which are both large 10-man recon squads. Sniper teams are also present. These units can be deployed in transport helicopters or armed Humvees. Recon helicopters include the OH-58D Kiowa, the Kiowa Warrior, as well as the electronic warfare dedicated unit, the EH-60A Quick Fix 2. And the cherry on the cake is the Delta Operators, a 6-man veteran special forces squad. They field 3 Colt Commandos, 2 M249 SAWs, and an M24 sniper rifle, not just a DMR. The dedicated and cool-looking M998 Humvee Delta, itself a recon transport with a special forces trait, will act as the squad's mode of transportation, though there are other options. The anti-air tab is disappointing with only a few options, mostly light ones, and all being very expensive. The classic Aero Stinger and the OH-58C/S helicopter. The division relies on Vulcans for close anti-air protection and features the Aero M167A2 Pivads variant, which is more accurate and has more range than the A1 variant. It can also be airlifted, so there is a slight difference there. The 194th Armour Brigade, providing some much needed air support, gets to add a single card of the M48A1 Chaparral. Another member of the Mechanical Mule family makes its appearance here as the M274 Mule M2HB, a cheap transport and anti-air vehicle for the Stinger teams. Helicopter tab is pretty good, as can be expected from an air mobile division. Access to all Cobra variants except for the ATAS and Sea Knight. Access to all Apache versions, including the new AH-60A Apache ATAS variant with 8 Hellfire and 4 Stinger missiles. So that's your anti-air option. The 160th SOAR provides a contingent of the AH-6F Littlebird, but also the new AH-6H Littlebird, featuring the same airframe but more heavily armed. Another unit provided by the squadron is the MH-60A DAP, which is a gunship variant of the Black Hawk with a 30mm chain gun, a 19 rocket pod, and 2 M134 miniguns. These helicopters come with the Special Forces trait. In the air tab, there is nothing too spectacular. With enough helicopter support, the US Air Force contributes by providing overwatch and air superiority in the form of the F-15C Eagle AA-2, the slightly worse variant, and the F-4E Phantom II AA. Dedicated close support planes are the F-4E Phantom II in HE and Napalm role, plus the F-111F-HE. There is the Electronic Warfare EF-111A Raven, which will also be found in a category. This plane is currently unavailable to the 8th Infantry Division otherwise. While a much lighter division compared to the Soviet 56th Separate Guards Air Assault, the 101st Airborne instead counts on excellent arsenal of infantry and helicopters for its offensive power. This allows it to strike fast, accurately and hard. The final thing they let us know here is that the Nemesis Air Assault will launch very soon, and that's not all. It will be released together with the free reinforcement pack, Urban Front Lines, which you can see more in the previous dev blogs. And that's everything for this week. Thank you very much for joining me. Do check out the video on the main channel going into more detail about the DLC, and I'll see you all soon for some more WARNO.